I'll tell you how my wife wants to be honored. She just texted me 3 seconds ago. Don't forget, women like to be fed.
Ah, yes. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Bible Geeks podcast. I'm Brian Sheely.
I'm Ryan Joy.
And thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in. The Bible bracket for our favorite Bible women is live. So while the voting still comes in, we'll have some conversations today inspired by the 4 regionals. And so today we're talking about the favorite women of valor from that regional.
Yeah, and that we're going to go back to the famous passage that comes from, Proverbs 31.
So the Bible's portrait of an excellent woman here is what we'll consider, or more literally, a valiant woman. It's not just a crushing checklist like we may have been led to believe. It is a celebration of courage and competence and really wisdom, I think.
Yeah, that's at the heart of this. It is Proverbs. So we'll also dive into a story, though, where God flips Pharaoh's plot against Israel's sons using a bunch of daughters, a bunch of women of valor that are going to show us what this looks like in action, I guess. So it's our way of appreciating the brave, the godly women who impact our faith.
Welcome to the Plainfield Ponderings podcast recording room. What on earth are we doing here?
We're in the Ponder Studio.
The Ponder Studio, yeah. So Alan Greeley gave us permission to use his office. So this is cool. This is a pretty sweet setup here in Plainfield, Indiana. Why am I in Indiana?
Yeah.
Not that I'm asking you. I know why I'm
enjoying
here.
the snow that we're having here in mid-March with the gospel meeting that Brian is doing here.
Yeah. So I got invited to come and to visit, and you decided to drive down from Fort Wayne. So that's it's been great to have pretty much all my favorite people in one place.
Yeah.
And we all get to hang out. And so here we are recording in the studio, and this is right in the middle of the very first round of our Bible bracket. So we figured we would take a whole episode and really tackle these women of valor. No, we're not going to tackle the women of valor.
Yeah. So each of the regionals has a different group that we drafted and put together.
Yeah.
And we're going to try to loosely let these next 4 episodes, including this one, be inspired by those 4 regional themes. And this one, we're going to take that term, women of valor, and where does that come from? Well, that is a phrase in our Bibles in Proverbs 31, though it's not usually translated that way.
I was just going to say, when I was you had pitched the idea of starting with Proverbs 31, and I'm scratching my head because I'm searching for the word valor or women of valor. And I'm it's not in Proverbs 31. And then I'm starting to see, okay, the translation is different. So where is this word here showing up in Proverbs 31?
Yeah, the first here in verse 10, the beginning of that great poem about what we usually call the excellent woman, or sometimes it's even the excellent wife, people will say. And that word can mean wife, and this woman, this portrait is of a wife. But you see that I think woman is a better translation for that part, because it's about all the facets of her life, her children, her community, her fear of God and relationship with God, and her relationship with her husband. So, but that word excellent or virtuous in some old translations,
right,
is this word that actually usually is translated valor, valiant, or valor, or courageous, the men of valor.
I was just going to say David's mighty men of valor, right? So,
yeah.
Which is not a comparison I would have made, right?
Yeah.
Mighty men of valor have this sense to me that they're big and strong and beefy and they can, fight in the battle, right? But I don't necessarily consider that same quality right off the bat, about women. And that is why I think this kickoff to this incredible poem is so powerful, because it flips upside down your expectations of what a woman is in her community, and that courage, that warrior mentality is not the domestic stereotype I normally think about right away.
Yeah, and it's not this in this portrait she's slaying Goliath or anything, but it is interesting that if you trace some of the other words in here, like there's the word, it's not translated this, but the word that's often translated spoils is in here. And like there's another word in here for, so there's the valiant word, and then there's another word for strength that is used here. And so there's like this picture of these words that are often used for all of the heroes in Judges, like Samson and in First Samuel and Second Samuel, and all of these great mighty Israelite heroes. It's putting this woman in that pantheon, if you will, of the great heroes, and saying this is the kind of person that holds up wisdom. Of course, is the main theme of Proverbs, but holds up a community and bravely brings a kind of maybe quiet strength that allows this community to thrive.
Yeah, and you were saying like verse 10 pulls out this word for valor here. But then in verse 29, kind of near the end of this proverb, but many women have done excellently, but you surpass them all. I think that's the same word there that we're talking about. And so it's like, you kick off the conversation with valor and strength and courage and like this warrior spirit that we're sort of talking about, and it ends that way too. So you're convincing me that Proverbs 31 really has this women of valor kind of language to it, because it doesn't immediately pop off the page in the English, but if you look at the translation, that's really what he's talking about.
Yeah, and it's a different kind of valor than we would think of, right? And
right.
It's a very feminine picture, which is beautiful, of a woman who is taking care of her family, who is taking care of those who have needs in her community, who trusts in God, who isn't worried. But I love the picture. She laughs at the future. Like, whenever trouble's going to come, she can just have this kind of ease and confidence, not twisted up in anxiety, because this is the kind of valor she has, not strength in herself, but trust in the Lord.
A study of Proverbs really does see the female presence throughout it, right? Like the woman who is personified as wisdom.
Yes.
Right? So it's not like it just shows up at the end. I think, sometimes we picture Proverbs 31 as like this, oh, and by the way, asterisk at the end of Proverbs.
Yeah.
But it's almost like it's been building to this moment throughout the whole book, really, when it begins with talking about wisdom personified as a woman.
It becomes like a bookend of wisdom personified in Proverbs 8, and then what this looks like practically when wisdom like rolls up its sleeves and gets down to work at the end.
That's a preacher trick, right? It's like, okay, I'm going to tell you some vague information about it, right?
Yeah.
And I'll give you the sort of core tenets behind it, and then we'll get to the practical application, like at the end of it. Is that kind of where you're?
Yeah. I mean, it's cool too. I think that this is a continuation of where Proverbs 31 starts, which is King Lemuel has an oracle that his mother taught him.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting, the idea that this is coming from the wisdom of a woman. Obviously, it's inspired, and he's collected these things, as with all of these Proverbs. But the first 9 verses tells him basically like how to be a king. And then from verse 10 to 31, it's like, okay, here's the kind of woman you want to be your partner. Here's how to find here is what it starts with a question: an excellent wife and a Shet Shail, who can find?
Yeah.
Like, this is a treasure to go hunting for, son.
Yeah.
She is far more precious than jewels. And so it kind of reminds me of Genesis 1 and like the ruler picture. Here's man, you're going to be king.
Right.
Adam.
Have dominion over that language, right?
Subdue, guard it, bring flourishing as God's image bearer. And then what? And you're not going to do that alone. There's these 2 parts to humanity that are going to co-rule over this world as God's representative, image-bearing heirs. And so then we see what that looks like with this wisdom picture here at the end of the book.
Do you think when we get to Proverbs 31, I feel like, and maybe this is just my perception, but I feel like this is such a topic of like women's classes and anytime ladies get together and like
Yeah.
have a Bible study. Do you sense that this becomes more of like a to-do list for for ladies who are really trying to like apply these things, or is that what the intention is here, I guess? Because you're saying like as you start out, like search for a woman who is like this, search for a virtuous, warrior, strong woman. But this almost could feel like I don't know, a difficult
The
standard to live up
measuring
to.
stick that
Yeah.
you like hold everybody to this perfection. Yeah, I've had friends tell me that like every lady study we have seems like we come back around to this, and the way they are experiencing it being taught, it feels to them like a suffocating, exhausting, impossible standard. I'm not saying everybody feels that way, but I've talked to more than 2 or 3 women, I think, that have kind of brought that up about this. And I think it's just not at all what this text is doing.
Right.
The only command, I think, is like a directive at the end for the community to praise her.
Right. Yeah.
Give her the fruit of her hands.
Yeah.
Let her works praise her in the gate. Charm's deceitful, beauty is vain, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Her children rise up and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praises her. It's like a time of recognition. And there's a Hebrew tradition. I don't know when it started, but a Jewish tradition of like reciting or even singing this.
Oh yeah.
On like the beginning of the Sabbath, Friday night before the Sabbath meal. And it's just such a cool way of like, so my wife is a big recognition person, like words of affirmation.
We're talking love languages
Love
here.
languages.
Okay.
Yes.
I gotcha.
She doesn't need to be the star of the show or anything, but when she's working hard, she wants to know that at least her husband, and maybe her kids, and that that's being seen, all that she's doing. And it doesn't mean everybody wants the spotlight, but it's really important to notice, to value, to appreciate, give thanks to God, because you and I have had these kind of women in our life all our lives that have shaped us.
Yeah.
And it's like, the woman of valor, who can find? And then you read it and it's like, that is amazing. But also, I can find it all over. That's the kind of life I've had.
Yeah.
There's a Proverbs 31 woman. There's a proverb,
yeah.
What a gift.
And maybe not in its entirety, maybe not like knocking off every single part of this quote unquote checklist, which I don't think this is, but absolutely I can see echoes of this picture, of this persona here all throughout my life, like you're saying. And I love the point that you're making there at the end of this. Like the directive is not that the woman live up to this standard necessarily, but that we, as the community, women, men alike, that we honor and hold up these women and appreciate them in the way that they deserve, because this is, half of the image-bearing community is this type of woman we're looking for. That's who we want them to be.
And not just on Mother's Day.
Boy.
Or, Valentine's, whatever. Like it's not a holiday thing. This is our way of life, is we notice and we hold up this different kind, because we all just like, we get it about masculinity, what a man looks like, but women are getting it about like what a woman, our culture has a mirror, and our daughters see this is what is valued by people in the world of woman. This is what femininity looks like. And the Bible is constantly saying, no. There is think of 1 Timothy 2 and 1 Peter 3. And this passage really beautifully says, here's what strength, beauty, what is precious in a woman is, the fear of God, and the way that she works hard and looks after people and just is is going about doing her life with strength and dignity as her clothing.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it's interesting, right? Like we talk about this proverb, and I think there's some stuff here that really just stand out like in our modern world
Mhm.
that are not, it's not common, or like maybe it's become more common. Like I think of the, she considers a field and buys it.
Mm.
That would have been like, I feel like maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like at the time when this was written, that would have been a sort of a countercultural idea that
Okay.
this woman is out there like doing, this kind of big business, right? Like for
Yeah.
her family. You would maybe imagine that in the husband's role more, but I think there are things here that even today in our modern culture, like I see as so important and stands out.
Mhm.
Um, like her children rise up and call her blessed, her husband also, and he praises her. Like that's again sort of on the outside looking in, but she has a family who sees her value. And I don't know that always, kind of like the conversation we were just having, I don't know that families all have that value anymore. Like,
Mm.
you know,
Yeah.
your parents are almost the people that like you want to put down here because you want to exceed them or go above them or go beyond them in some way. But like for your kids to know that you gave everything for them and they honor that in you.
Yeah, sometimes it takes a while, like you have to age into, and you
Oh, for sure.
shouldn't. And this is, I think, where a father can reinforce, hey, you need to thank your mother for this, and let's show her respect and that kind of thing. Because, as a wife does for her husband too, because it is easy. We are easy to take for granted because they know we love them and we're going to keep taking care of them. And it's great that we're safe for them to like occasionally show so process their emotions, but the appreciation and the respect and the honor is it's so important because it's based in this character that's just being held up as beautiful,
Yeah.
and as wonderful. And it's not about idealizing, like you said, about not taking every one of these as a piece of it. There was a movie years ago. Did you ever see, Kate Blanchett was in it. It's called An Ideal Husband.
I did not.
It's good. I like it. It's,
I'm not in
it's
the rom-com thing
It's like,
either, but
yeah, and it's like an old timey,
okay.
period-y thing. So it's not really hey, this is a women of valor, women's Bible character bracket. We can go to a rom-com type thing, but it's it's based on an old play by Oscar Wilde.
Okay.
And she holds up her husband. It's called An Ideal Husband. She holds up her husband at this level of perfection,
Mm-hmm.
that she discovers that, something happened in his youth. He did a business deal or something he shouldn't have. And it's like, she is crumbled. He has fallen off of his big white horse.
Right.
And like the whole thing is crushed. And we've been in these grace conversations and these conversations about you're teaching this meeting about how God continues to transform us from glory to glory, one degree of glory to another. And we're all a work in progress.
Yes.
It's not about saying, boom, be perfect all the time.
Right.
But it's about holding up that there are righteous people all around us that are doing well. And if you look around, you can find them. And when you do, what this is saying is appreciate it.
Yeah.
Teach others to look at that example, teach others to tune in and listen to their wisdom, because from her mouth comes wisdom, as talks about.
Yeah.
And then to praise them.
Yeah, and not that, maybe to put a bow on this, not that the praise is what motivates them
No.
or is why that they do these things, right? There's a deeper reason behind it all, but like, boy, isn't it so true for like you and me when somebody comes up and just says like, thank you for that, or they express gratitude in some way, or they acknowledge something. Like all of us, everyone appreciates that.
It makes a huge difference.
It does. And it is motivating. It propels you to keep going. It makes it feel like the things you're doing matter. And
the opposite, it can be very discouraging when you're just killing yourself, spending yourself in the service of others. The Lord sees, and you try to hold on to that. But, if you're never seen and noticed and appreciated, that's really an issue.
I met a lot of people this week here at the gospel meeting that I'm doing, and I'm talking to people and I'm getting to know them, and I'm like, one of my big questions is like, what do you do? Like, what's your thing? What do you love to do? What do you do for work? And I've met a handful of women who say, well, I just stay at home with the kids. And I have made the comment at least 3 times so far. There is no just in that. Like that is not a just thing.
Yeah.
Like that is absolutely
boy
a job in and of itself.
Is it.
And so I try to make that point, but I feel like that even still, doesn't get acknowledged as much as like being with the family. Not that that's the entire picture of Proverbs 31 is like this 100% domestic, focused woman. It's a woman of strength.
She's doing business.
She has all of these irons in the fire that she's doing. And boy, that is not a just kind of thing, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, take it as a holistic picture. And, like, here's another illustration.
Shocking.
So, I read about the guy who designed the Statue of Liberty.
Okay.
Whenever he was trying to figure out what to make this statue, he was told by someone, hey, just think of the people, the figures that represent, strength and dignity and virtue in your mind. And so he made her look like his mom.
That's awesome.
And
I didn't know that. That's so
right,
cool.
right. And so you sometimes, and that's what I think this poem is doing, is like, you might think, oh, even among women, like Deborah or Jael comes down, these women of valor, which we are holding up and pointing to. But like true valor usually looks like this.
Yes,
Looks like mom whenever she was taking care of this guy who's making the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's helpful. And all throughout the Bible, really, this is not the only moment where women are held up, right? And Proverbs 31 is a great woman of valor anchor point that we start this conversation off with. But I mean, according to our list of the women of valor, Rahab, Abigail, Deborah, Naomi, Hagar, Jochebed, like all these women, boy, they are just sprinkled throughout the entirety of Scripture. And you almost don't get a few chapters in to reading and not bump into one of them.
So I'm pulling up our bracket here because you stopped at Jochebed.
Oh, yeah.
But if you keep going, you start to see there is a theme for a few of these. Jochebed, number 6, Puah, number 7, number 8, Shiphrah. And then we've got number 11 is Pharaoh's daughter. Number 10 is Zipporah. All of these women in Exodus 1 and 2.
That's true.
So that's another anchor point we want to go to here is all of these women are going to be represented in a little Here's the Story segment on how Moses was delivered and Pharaoh was defeated in a surprising way.
Okay, so in Exodus 1, Exodus 2, right, we've got Pharaoh in this story. And he's up to no good, right? He's a different Pharaoh or a different leader of Egypt, probably the Pharaoh, but a different Pharaoh than what the people had known for years before that. And now the people are starting to grow in number and they're now intimidating to Pharaoh. And he thinks, look, I've got to put these guys under my thumb so that they don't grow up and take me over, right? Yeah. So his first response there is to decide to kill all of the babies.
Well, his first response is to put them into slavery.
True, right.
So work them to the bone. We're going to oppress them, afflict them with heavy burdens, which ruthlessly, Exodus 1, 11 to 14, made the people of Israel work as slaves and made their lives bitter. That backfired. They multiply even more. And then phase 2.
And then he goes on to killing the
Yeah.
baby boys, which is like, as I'm thinking about it now, we don't have time to talk about this, but this is kind of a theme throughout Scripture, is like this.
It gets echoed.
It gets echoed in Jesus' story, right?
Yeah.
So that's not the only time we've read about this part of it. But so to kill the baby boys, he's not going to do it. He's commissioning the midwives to do it. And these are apparently the Egyptian midwives,
Probably.
who maybe also Hebrews, but it sounds like they're more the Egyptian midwives here in these.
Yeah, probably.
cases.
It doesn't really specify, I don't think.
Well, and there when they use the example of, or when they try to defend themselves, when they don't, right? They
Hebrew
say
women.
these Hebrew women,
Yeah,
right?
you're right. That's a good clue.
So it kind of gives you the indication that they're not among the Hebrews, but why have they decided to have such courage in the face of the leader of Egypt?
Yeah, it says they feared God.
Yeah.
Chapter 1, verses 17 to 21, it comes up in, elsewhere, but the midwives feared God and saved the babies. And finally, Pharaoh is like, well, that's not working either. So there's like a phase 3. Okay, like anybody who sees a Hebrew baby boy, basically, throw him in the river. Let the Nile, and the Nile is like one of their gods, right? Maybe the Nile will save them. Leave it up to the fate of the god of the Nile kind of thing, maybe.
Sure.
But like throw him into the Nile. And, so then we have this story that many of us are more familiar with whenever Moses is put in this basket. And I always thought of it as sending him down the river.
I did too. Yeah. And as you start to dig into it, though, it's not quite that way.
Not
right?
really. No, it's more like he is, it looks like what's happening is the basket is floated out. It's put in the reeds where it could be hidden. And Miriam is close by so that she can keep watch. She keeps kind of coming, and she knows her baby brother's hiding over here until whatever mom needs to nurse him or whatever. And so I don't know that this is like a sacrifice him, send him down, we'll see what happens.
Right.
But then Pharaoh's daughter does hear him and, finds him. And so now we have all of these. Here's the big twist in the text. What's Pharaoh trying to do?
Kill all the baby boys.
So all the sons, that will make them weak if we kill all the sons. What does God do?
He uses all the daughters. Yeah, because there's a high concentration of the word daughter here in these 2 chapters, Exodus 1 and 2. And
11 times.
Yeah, 11 times he's using this word. And, of course, like, if God isn't able to use the men, he's going to use the women. And it's like, of course, God's will is going to be done. And it's going to take a lot of courageous women to stand up against, the king of Egypt. And for them to do this, they're risking their life. That's absolutely. And I love like, when you get to Shiphrah and Puah, their name means beautiful and splendid.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And so, like, so deeply ironic that you have these beautiful and splendid women, like, standing up to the most powerful, ugly tyrant of the time. Right.
Yes. Yeah. And it's cool that the twist at the end of the Shiphrah and Puah story, the midwife story, is it says that God blessed them, and because they feared him, he gives them a family of their own.
Yeah.
And that's like a result of this stand of faith that they had. And then we see the daughter of, it doesn't say in most of our translations, daughter of Levi, but that's the literal translation in verse 1 of chapter 2. There was a daughter of Levi.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first of our daughter references, of our 11 references. And that's Jochebed, Moses' mom. She has this baby. We read in later on in Hebrews 11, the Hall of Faith, that, Jochebed and her husband, by faith, risked everything to raise up Moses, to stand up to Pharaoh. Miriam is there being a good sister watching, hey, big sisters, listen up. Big
Yeah.
sisters are important.
Exactly.
And then Moses has a second mom, like an adopted mom. So, we know a lot of people that have adopted kids.
Mm-hmm.
Think about the specialness of this relationship that starts to happen as she's able to save his life. So a daughter of Pharaoh, a daughter of Levi, a daughter of Miriam. Later on, at the end of this story, Moses is taken in after he runs off to Midian by the daughters of Jethro.
That's right. Yeah.
And brought to safety. And then the very end of what I would call this whole arc is at the end of chapter 2, Moses and Zipporah, the daughter of Jethro, have a son.
Yeah.
So it's like Pharaoh is totally thwarted in every way. The Israelite leader who God is going to use to deliver the people has been saved, but also all of these sons are being saved through all of these daughters. And God loves to kind of flip things to where the Pharaoh has this twisted view of God and of his people and of what strength looks like and all of this. And in his insecurity and his fear and his paranoia, he's trying all these crazy, like a psychopath, really. I mean, just so crazy. He's killing all of these babies, and God still finds a way to deliver his people.
And I think, we see all these stories about God and deliverance and all these things. And boy, isn't it interesting how, God is almost just like laughing in Pharaoh's face by making Moses grow up in his own house.
Yeah,
right?
right.
Like Pharaoh's own daughter is the one who is taking care of Moses, and like Pharaoh's money and his resources and his own family are going towards his own destruction. He doesn't even know it.
It's awesome.
Right? Isn't that so cool?
So good.
But
it's really powerful.
I mean, you think about the way that God works. He's going to work through whoever, and he does not always work through the men. And maybe that may be the big overarching, conversation here to have, is that God is going to always work through whoever he can use. And whether that's a man of courage or a woman of courage, like Rahab and, these other people that we have in our bracket.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just a boys club, right? This is all across the board.
Yeah. And 1 Corinthians 1, the end of that chapter, talks about how it's his preference is actually, if somebody is being overlooked and thought of as not particularly valued or strong, that's who he wants to use.
That's who he wants to use.
And the idea is, as we lower ourselves, as we understand our weakness, or think of 2 Corinthians 12, in our weakness, we're made strong, and his grace is sufficient, and it helps us to see the Lord is who we boast in, and all of us, the Lord wants to work with all of us, in all of us, through all of us, in all of our different ways and our gifts, to bring about his glory and his purposes. And that's what we do here. I mean, what else should we take from a story like this? What do we learn about God? What do we learn about the way he works?
What you were just saying and thinking about the way God works just makes me totally realize how he loves the underdog.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, he uses the one, the people, he uses the circumstances that you would just never picture as success. And I think, I just cannot help but think about Jesus and the cross, right? You look at the cross and you look at Christ's death on the cross, and that is like failure. In the eyes of everyone at the time, that should absolutely have been failure.
The might of Rome has crushed it,
and the
powers of darkness,
the holiness of the Hebrews at the time. Thinking that they were standing up for God and all of these things. That God's going to use that moment of what looks like utter weakness, which is what I think, Paul is talking about in 1 Corinthians, is that idea that, what you think of as failure and weakness and smallness, God sees as courage and valor and strength. And boy, don't count the underdog down. And I'm not saying that women are viewed as underdogs, but I have seen it that does happen.
Absolutely. And historically, I mean, particularly in the time that this was written about the story of Exodus, this is clearly what Pharaoh's thinking. And yeah, I mean, that's the passage, the 1 Corinthians 1 passage there is where he says the weakness of God is stronger than men. The power of the foolishness of God is wiser than men, and it's in the foolishness of the message preached that he'll save those who trust in him.
What do you think it looks like for us to, we talked about from Proverbs 31, we talked about like praising her in the gates, right? What do you think that looks like for us as we think about using that as an opportunity? Is that just like, patting your wife on the back, or like, speaking those love language kinds of things to her? Or is that like, is there something more than that we can do that would be a benefit to women?
Yeah.
And especially those women of courage.
So like praising her in the gates, you think of the elders of the city would gather in the gates. And this is like a place where the community, it's a center point for community.
Right.
And so this is as public as it can get whenever you go there.
Right.
And you say, let me tell you about my wife, and just like it matters to say to other people when she's not around.
Yeah.
Man, she is so great at this. I'm so blessed, and it is a powerful thing. It just, I think, puts life into any of us.
Yeah.
Whenever that we're being built up, and this is edification, right? It's really what we're talking about. It's not really about like empty compliments. It's about edification, building each other up.
I agree with that. And I think the at the gates part of it, like you're highlighting, there's something about public, right?
Yeah.
There's something about saying that to other people. And, that is, it's so nice to hear something like that behind closed doors. But boy, it's even greater to hear that when other people are involved. I mean, that's something that we can give, a gift that we can give, to be able to tell other people. And that's, I don't know, I also think about that as like modeling that for other people.
Yes.
That it's not always something we see. And I don't know, maybe it's generational, maybe looking back, like wasn't always super aware of other people doing that when I was growing up, but I want to see that in my own life and be able to model that for the generation behind me so that they can know that this is normative. This is like what we do as people.
Yeah. I mean, just honestly, I think that there have been times when, I won't say invisible, but many of the women who are working so hard, just as hard as men who are teaching a class in the church or leading, singing or whatever, aren't being noticed and recognized as much. And I think that I brought up my wife, but speaking appreciation into all of these ladies around us, just specifically since that's what we're talking about, but all the people around us, and especially someone that maybe you see is not maybe getting as much recognition, I think is important. And it says her works praise her.
Yeah.
I love that. Like, notice what she's doing because the works themselves are doing the job. If you don't say it, notice the work because the work is awesome. Look at these kids she's raising. Look at the, whatever it is that's happening.
It's like these stones would praise him, right? Like, it's, the praise is going to be there and you just need to join the party and say the same things that even their works are showing.
Give her her due. I love that. Like this is what she's owed. And so I think that's one. I think listening is an important one. She opens her mouth, verse 26, with wisdom.
Yeah.
And the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. Making sure that even the very shy lady among us that's more introverted, that she knows you have a voice that matters.
Yeah.
And I know you've got something to offer to this conversation and creating that space. I have a big personality. I'm a preacher. I'm a man. I'm an extrovert. I'm going to make my way into a conversation often.
Yes,
as you know.
I do.
I didn't have enough. I just had to have a podcast with you and, for all the other conversations. But somebody like me needs to make a big space and an invitation. I can be a quarterback to bring in the voices and, hey, have you asked this person about what she thinks about it? Because I bet she has something that could really contribute to.
Yeah. I want to because we're in the Plainfield's Ponderings podcast room here, I want to bring up an episode, and we'll link it in the show notes, that Alan did recently on 1 Timothy, talking about women.
Yeah, I listened to that.
And such a helpful perspective on what it would have meant for women to learn at the time when Paul is saying that.
Let her learn.
And that is like you're saying, it reminds me that they are welcome to the party. And anytime that I get a perspective on something coming from somebody who doesn't typically give their perspective, I'm almost always blown away.
Yeah.
There's almost always some insightfulness there that I was missing, and something that got added to the conversation.
Yeah.
When they were able to come and share that. So I think this is all helpful. I love Proverbs 31. I love the conversations that we've had about women of valor. And I'm feeling like right now it's a moment for all of us to kind of maybe take on the challenge.
Yes.
Of finding a way to honor a woman in your life that reminds you of this Proverbs 31 woman.
I'll tell you how my wife wants to be honored. She just texted me 3 seconds ago. Don't forget, women like to be fed.
Ah, yes.
It's about lunchtime.
It is about lunchtime.
And our wives are visiting each other at home. So that's a way to honor a wife. It's just you take care of the food.
Exactly.
You know what? I'm bringing dinner home.
That's how we're doing it. I mean, there's all sorts of ways, and those love languagey kinds of things can always be a help. So this has been good conversation and really appreciated Alan again for giving us this space.
Awesome.
It's super wonderful. Thank you for tuning in to the Bible Geeks podcast. You can find us on our website at BibleGeeks.fm. You can find show notes for this episode in your podcast player or at BibleGeeks.fm as well. Go vote. We're getting into round 2 of the voting here as this episode drops. So round 2 of the voting, if you already voted last time, thank you so much. But go do it again. And so we'll be voting again for another week in round 2 of our favorite Bible women draft this year in 2026. And until next episode, everyone, may the Lord bless you and keep you.
Shalom.